2, 1. Fragments of silicon. Now with 20% more silicon per fragment.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Hopefully all of our microphone issues are not an issue this week. No.
It seems to be better so far, at least.
Yeah, but it's kind of gut check time now because, we're actually recording, we're actually on stream. I'm like, but everything seems to be indicating that everybody's audible, nobody's cutting out. Yada yada yada. All right. Anyway, I'm your host Adam. Joining me, our ogre.
No, hoy hoy.
Yeah, he's back on a full-time basis, as far as I can tell.
Until something else health-related takes me out.
Yeah. Naka will continue to not be part of this program. Just putting that out there right now. Galix.
Hi, I'm not feeling good, but I'm feeling better than I was on Saturday.
Sunday as well.
Or Sunday.
Yeah. Petty Fan.
Yo.
And Twilight.
Aye.
All right. Shifting to the news. Twilight, why don't you start us off?
Listen now. This past Saturday, my uncle came to visit. I don't see him very often. And then Sunday, me and my mother went to check out burial plots for her father.
Oh, that's not good.
And they're fine health-wise. Just figure we go ahead and get that taken care of.
Aha.
Yeah, it's a small piece of real estate you can look for early.
Yeah. We seem to have come to a decision, but have to wait and see. Otherwise, in gaming, picked up Breath of the Wild, and been enjoying it so far.
Right on, for Wii U or for Switch?
Wii U.
Cool.
I don't think anybody here has a Switch yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get one in April.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And besides that, been playing games for the show, and that's about it.
Cool.
All right. I'm assuming that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Ogre, you're up.
Well, today I went into the dentist to go get my framework fitted in my teeth. Nothing permanent yet, but 2 more steps when I thought it would be 1 more step, but who's counting at this point?
I'm shocked you haven't ripped your dentist's teeth out and used his yet.
I'm at that over-the-hill moment where it's like, I'd be pissed if we were 3 steps back, but we're almost at the finish line. I can limp the way there.
You just want your teeth.
Want my fucking corn. I haven't had corn on the cob in months, and it's killing me.
Yeah.
I'm from Ohio. We do corn on the cob during the summer.
It's like an important sort of seasonal event. I mean, without that, it would be an incomplete year.
Yeah. Let's see. Naka got a Switch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, got Breath of the Wild as well. Didn't take it out of the box. He actually got it that Monday that we recorded. And none of us were stupid enough to try to eat the Zelda cartridge because we don't have... This thing has a bittering on it. I'll take your word for it.
know, you can watch the innumerable YouTube videos testing this shit out.
Yeah.
Because apparently, you know, you had to see for yourself.
My favorite one was does the Switch break if you run over it with the car?
Yes, as it turns out. I'm like,
Yeah, I think we can kind of break that one away from you. Yes, that happens.
yeah, I saw that video. Like, yeah, I'm not sure what you were expecting.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Other
what do you
than
think it is,
that,
an original Game Boy?
well, yeah, they do have a one that survived Desert Storm, so.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's like the Switch isn't nearly as well built as a fucking Game Boy. It's like comparing a car from the 1950s to a car from today.
It's a little
I
known
had
fact.
that-
It's a little known fact, but the Nintendium mines started to become depleted in the early 2000s.
Adam, I had that exact scene from Back to the Future 2 pop up in my head.
Exactly, and
No,
that's
his car's made of steel. Ours made of aluminum. He'll cut through it like a piece of paper.
and that was actually true. That was actually true. Cars,
Oh yeah,
like,
cars used to be made of steel, and they could just.
well, that's because they had no safety features. They were kind of built like a tank to take the impact. So,
But let's see. Other than that, recording's going fine.
Eh.
We're a little bit ahead. It's kind of weird seeing the comments lag behind, but that's not something that can really be helped otherwise.
At least it's not Persona 4.
Well, I already see people going like, "Are you gonna do Persona 5?" Guys, I don't even know what the game is yet.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I know what the
literally
game
not
is.
even out in this country yet.
Yeah, just
Persona 5 is going to haunt him until he does it. Yeah,
Mhm.
or you guys do it. So just be prepared for that.
yeah.
You know,
And maybe Persona 5 for the Switch.
yeah. Well, they're not making Persona 5 for the Switch. They're making Shin Megami Tensei for the Switch.
That'll be interesting. Let's see. Other than that, not much. Just keeping up my gaming stuff. Still going through Dragon Quest VIII because I'm gonna wring that one out as far as I can.
Yeah.
No, I don't care that people beat it in 5 hours on its release date. I'm gonna take my damn time.
Well, that's kind of what it's actually meant for.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mr. Speed runs Breath of the Wild when he fucking opens up the box.
I'm like, well, I mean, like you can speed run in like less than 2 hours, already. I mean, it's not as bad as say, the
Fallout?
original Fallout, where you could beat it in like legit 15 minutes if you knew what to do.
Yeah, Fallout
Yeah.
4 or Fallout 3, you could beat it in 20 if you know what direction to walk in.
Yeah, it's like, but that's kind of not the point of Breath of the Wild.
Open world
It's
RPGs.
one of the points. Like you can't. Once you get off the plateau, you can take on the final boss. But
Hell,
know-
I've just been messing around on the plateau for like
Same here.
4 in-game hours. I'm actually running out of
Yeah.
swords and axes to cut down trees with.
that's kind of my point. It's an open world exploration game.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you go and explore and you cook and it's
Meant
like
to take
playing,
you hundreds
say-
of hours instead of 15 minutes.
It's like playing a lot of other games these days. If I'm being honest,
Rise of
open
Dawn looks interesting.
open world exploration games are pretty hot right now. So for Nintendo to make waves in that genre is actually pretty significant.
Definitely.
But
Let's see.
Anyway.
Other than that, that's kind of it for me. So who's
Yeah.
next? Betty.
Not a whole lot's been going on my front. Just been, there's some games I want to get, but that first requires money. Like I want to get Horizon Zero Dawn, Breath of the Wild and pay off my pre-order for Stormblood, Final Fantasy 14. So,
Oh yeah, I still gotta do that.
outside of that, just been playing games for the show, and there is something I might be able to do, test out capturing PS4 stuff for the show if we ever need that. So that's
Oh
gonna be
yeah,
interesting.
Yes, I saw somebody testing out some PlayStation 4 recording the other day. Yeah. Right.
Like,
Anyway,
I mean, worst case, I can always save up my pennies and just get a capture unit.
Like does the PS4 support like like video capture just like by virtue of the console itself, or do you need to run through a capture device?
To
I
do it
think
for
it
the
has-
show, I'd need to run it through a capture device, but if I wanted to just like stream to Twitch, I could do that on its own, but I wouldn't get the talk show audio for this, so I feel like I need to do something for the show itself.
I see.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Gallets.
Well, excuse me, I need to cough up a lung for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, Gulix is dying.
Yeah, it's like
Sorry,
It's a
you
hell of a way
called
to
on
go.
me right as I got a throat tickle.
I'm like
Anyway, last Friday I started getting pretty sick, and I was. Anybody who heard our reviews from this Sunday knows my voice was not in a good place then. But my voice thankfully is better, and I'm not it doesn't burn to breathe anymore, so that's good.
So what you're saying is you had the plague.
Yeah, honestly, I have had less than some of the people. Like my dad has it; has lasted a lot longer. My supervisor at work got it before I did, and is still out.
Oh jeez.
He has a new kid, so that's probably why. I think that weakens your immune system. But anyway, so I was actually off work for 2 days and took advantage of some of that to actually play Breath of the Wild, which I got on the Wii U because I don't have a Switch. And I'm probably going to get it again when I get a Switch because it's really fun. As I said during Ogre's News, I'm still on the plateau. I just got to Oadame's Shrine before the third shrine before the show started. I have not played the games for this week yet, but I'm going to get on that. I actually did pick up the second one on Wii that we have, Forma 8 or however you say it.
Formulate.
Formulate.
It's a pun title. Forma.8. Formulate.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna try that on the Wii U at least, since it was part of the Nindies at Home promotion way back when, so I got it at a discount for that. So I'll try that out. Other than that, I don't have a whole ton going on aside from I hope I feel better soon, because it's not fun having your brain running at about 90% at best.
I guess that's it from you. All right. My go? Right. So, let's see. Yeah, not playing Breath of the Wild because I don't have either a Wii U or a Switch. As I mentioned last week, I've been saving up or waiting for the opportunity to get a new laptop, which I did. So that's what I bought. Mainly for the show, but other reasons. My other laptop was about 5.5 years old, so starting to get long in the tooth.
Yeah. I've had mine since high school. And we just got a letter about our 5-year anniversary or 5-year. Oh wait, no, it's actually been 7 years since I've been out of high school. What the hell? So yeah, I need to replace that someday. It's probably never gonna happen though.
Yeah, well, this laptop should last me It should last me a good 5 years. But I read out the specs last week. It's got 8 gig of RAM, and I'm a bit concerned about the clock speed, but that's about it. It should have no problem running games we get for the show. Is my point. Like, it's like, granted, I haven't really had an opportunity to really test that out because the games of the week haven't exactly been the most graphically challenging. Like, okay, Formula 8 looks really good, but it's a 2D Metroidvania game.
If you still have Dark
Yeah.
Dreams Don't Die, you could try that one out because I think that's the most system-intensive game we've ever had.
There are others, like, but and Trick Style. Well, Trick Style is a game. Game from 1999. So,
It's a Dreamcast game.
although its graphical options are actually pretty interesting because it looks like it can go up to 4K. I'm not
Really?
sure why, because no matter what the resolution, it's not escaping the fact that it looks like a game from 1999. But it's there. Like, still haven't figured out how to get controller support, and if I can't do it, then I'm not playing any more of that game. It's not a game for a keyboard. Holy shit, no.
It's
I assume plugging and unplugging your controller didn't work.
Not as such, no.
I kind of got it to work for my controller, but it only works for the menu.
Yeah,
Not for the gameplay itself.
Yeah,
That sounds really bad, actually.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a major trick I can't do with the keyboard. So, like I said, it's one of those situations where technically it's playable, but it's like driving with your feet. Yeah, you could do it, but I wouldn't advise it.
Also, you might get arrested in some states.
Speaking of which,
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you're the one who made that joke, Adam.
Yeah, it's like, well, that was kind of more of a segue. Kind of dealing with the car accident business.
Well, you don't want to crash on a Segway either.
Okay, never change.
Yeah. Like, I didn't miss that.
Remind me to throw a bridle at a snake near you next time. Son of a bitch!
Anyway, I'm dealing with the car accident business. It's going about as smoothly as it can go. And that's all I'll say on the matter here. I mean, nothing bad. Just it's actually going a lot smoother than I thought. Mainly because it turns out the accident was even better for the other guy. His car wasn't totaled. They're going to repair it. So so there's not so that that means it's probably going to be under the cap. So not a worry. So that's one less worry.
Sure, fingers crossed that you have the minimum of insurance-related headaches to cope with.
Yeah, I'm like, well, if he's getting the car repaired, that it's not going to be over $10,000. That's the threshold. So if they come back and say it's totaled, that's another story. But I don't think so. Also, it's been about a week and a half since the accident, and it doesn't look like any new medical issues have arisen. So, like I said, it looks like it's going to be about as smooth as it can be. Things can change, but like I said, it's the insurance part looks like it's going to be settled a lot sooner than I thought it would be. Which means the next thing up is dealing with the citation. Like, let's see. Apart from that, well, my week has been mostly getting up my laptop. It's like you forget how much of a pain it is to deal with a new electronical device and get it to where you're comfortable with it.
Indeed.
It's like getting all the programs, like getting all the passwords. That one was especially pesky because Like, oh right, I need I need to remember my password for this site. You know that you may not have remembered, and you have to change. But the big one was downloading the Steam games again. That took about 2-3 days.
It's like
Well,
just
it's like
terabytes of data.
not not quite that much, but it was about 225 gigs.
Wow. Well, that's still considerable. Jeez.
Yes. I'm like, I have an expanded hard drive now, so I was intent on filling it.
Yeah.
Right. Some of those games were quite large.
Oh yes, they were.
Right. And I think that's about it for the news. Having an extra person certainly has the news roll on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so merrily we shall get to the interview portion of the broadcast. And this week, you've been hearing him during our news segment, but it is our great pleasure to welcome Trevor McAleese of Gigatross Games.
Hello.
Yes, hello. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine. Just been sort of leisurely working on a few odds and ends today. So it's been a nice day. How's everyone else doing tonight?
I think
Pretty good, I guess.
mhm.
Good.
Pretty good in between fits of coughing.
Just have your mute button handy.
Yeah.
I have been.
That's good. All right. So starting out with our usual question, how did you get interested in video games initially?
Well, ever since ever since I was like a wee lad, let's say sort of kindergarten age, I gained like an interest in video games basically straight away, and I, even from then, I just wanted to make them. I mean, I had no idea then, and I wouldn't have an idea for like many years, what was actually involved in doing it all. But basically, it's just been sort of a dream since childhood, to make games. So that's kind of where it all started, I guess. Just playing, like Nintendo, like Atari 2600, all that kind of stuff. Just started early.
Right, and shifting things a bit further, how did it ignite? How did you get interested professionally?
Well, I had enrolled in like a business program at like a local college, just because I originally I had aspired to open up like a retro gaming shop, like a secondhand kind of a thing. But sort of as I kind of made my way through that degree, and took like a little bit of time off after sort of finishing it, it just kind of it made more sense at that point to just actually focus on the thing that I wanted to do, like, and that was to make games, not just to try to like make an honest living selling them, but to actually try to make an honest living making them. So it was sort of an evolution of just a desire to like own and run a business. And then I just kind of connected the dots finally, and was like, well, like that business that could support me could be the business of making games, not just peddling them,
Right. And how did that lead to you founding Gigatross?
Well, it just so happened that some childhood friends of mine, people that we'd all been hanging out and like gaming together since we were just kids. Well, we were all kind of at the same point in that we were either finished our like post-secondary education or just about, and kind of identified that we all shared a similar passion to actually make a game. So we had originally come together in 2010 on our first project, Grand Class Melee, which we ended up releasing for for the Xbox 360 via Xbox Live Indie Games. So Gigatross Games came to be because the three of us, my two partners, Jacob Sincant and his younger brother Tyler Sincant, we banded together and committed ourselves to actually making something. So like we ultimately came together on the game before we ultimately decided that we would make a studio around it. So the game itself kind of like predated our our organization, I suppose.
The Xbox Live Indie Games channel. There's something I haven't heard of in quite a long time.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, it's still around. I mean, like you can't actually release games on it anymore, but you can still buy them. People are still playing games on their on their Xbox 360s, and you can still. Yeah, I mean, like there are thousands and thousands of of titles available. Obviously of varying degrees of quality. But despite how easy it is to to disparage the average Xbox Live indie game, there's like some really interesting stuff there, and it's really cool how like a number of like the higher profile games have managed to sort of successfully make the jump from Xbox Live indie games to to PC. It's like it might be sort of easily dismissed as just sort of like a cesspool of the worst that indie gaming has to offer, but there's like there are a number of gems in there.
I know, it's just you had to look really hard to find them.
Well, yeah, and like it wasn't made any easier by the fact that like just like by virtue of the way that the whole service was set up. There was just this infinite preference being given to like only a handful of games that were that were already successful. Like it was almost impossible to sort of break out. It was just the same 20 games that were filling up like every relevant list. Most people that buy games on Xbox Live Indie Games were buying them based on like the the global like rating, or it's just.
Well, I also remember, it was based off of a voting system, and the voting system was quite rigged. Stop me if any of this sounds familiar.
You mean like the voting system in order to actually get a game released, or do you mean the voting system like for actual players to give like a star rating?
Yeah, that's the one. It's like there was a community ranking system that I believe affected placement, and
it did.
People being who they are, I'm like, there were quite a number of scams involving bribing people to spam vote for certain games. I forget the games because it's been so long since I've thought about any of this. But I'm like, it really was kind of the precursor to Steam Greenlight.
Yeah.
I think about it. Like,
yeah. Like there certainly was like a fair bit of sort of, well, maybe vote manipulation is kind of a strong word, but yeah, easy to sort of spam vote, get like a motivated group of like a few hundred people, and they could easily inflate the score of a game and thus propel it to a higher position of visibility. And like Steam, but unlike Steam Greenlight, as far as like what actually sort of made the decision as to how games could actually be launched on the platform, it was actually like a community voting system, but it was only like the developer like community. You needed to have like a game receive, I forget the actual number, but it was like an arbitrary number of sort of like yes votes from other developers that were involved in the Xbox Live Indie Game program. And it was up to the developer community to sort of like vet the game and decide if it like if it met sort of the controller support requirements, if like it didn't crash on launch, so but because of that, developers would be wanting to help each other out. So of course, the majority of Xbox Live Indie Games developers would just indiscriminately just like give give a thumbs up to any game, regardless of how bad it was or how broken it was, because they would, be hoping that yes vote that they gave would be a yes vote in return. So like very easy to kind of have that system be corrupted when, everyone's just trying to like scratch each other's back.
Right. Tit for tat.
Yeah, whereas like whereas Steam Greenlight, I mean, which is of course is going to be discontinued, at some point in the spring. It's like it sort of has like the guise of being like moderated by the community, but the fact that it's purely just based on like the number of yes votes that a game can accumulate, you've got all sorts of people trying to like find exploits for that, and like like neither one is a perfect system. I'm honestly not sure like which one works better, when you've got developers just trying to help each other, or when you've got just like people that are like willing to like vote for a game they don't even like.
Mm-hmm.
But that's maybe a little off topic. But I don't know.
It's
Xbox Live mini games. It's fun to think about.
Yeah, the Greenlight situation a couple months back. The frustrating aspects about Greenlight was it was born out of a sense of laziness. Really, it was born out of Valve just really didn't want to deal with the issue, so they outsourced it to the community. As they thought it was a catch-all for all of it, for everything.
Well, yeah. Well, like Valve's perspective on it is that like they simply weren't able to cope with like the scale of of games that were competing for release. Like if they were trying to like hand curate and like hand pick sort of what got released, they just they didn't feel that they could do an adequate job of that. So they needed to delegate it, in order to sort of make sure that the right decisions were being made.
Yeah, I will disagree with that. They didn't want to do that without breaking certain fundamental ethos rules, because Valve is a small company and they wish to remain a small company, because you can curate this stuff. It's just you need a lot of people to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Look at iOS and like the Google store. Like, from what I understand, like Apple has a lot of people vetting games because they get so many games on a hourly basis. Like, just so much content that they just need a lot of people to sift through that, and even then, they're not going to catch everything.
Yeah, but it is impressive that a human employee is like taking a look at every game submitted to the App Store and and like the Google Play Store, and like they're giving their their personal endorsement. It's like I do have to wonder like how big their actual like review team is. It's got to be massive.
Possibly. Anyway, shifting back on topic, the Grand Class Melee series.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, what are these games exactly?
Well, Grand Class Melee 1 and 2, they can best be described as like arena fighting games with like a simplified RPG job system. So, imagine like a Zelda style deathmatch. We're talking like an overhead perspective 2D environment. And you're ultimately just bashing each other with with swords, staffs, and spears. But what makes it sort of fun and interesting for like a multiplayer game is that the game is presented as like an 8-round tournament, and with every round, each player is advancing to like a new place in the class tree. And every one of those classes in the class tree has a unique ability associated with them. So every round, you're effectively leveling up your skills and you're gaining new abilities to sort of choose from. Because and also every round you are picking like a secondary ability to join the ability of the class that you've selected. So at any given point, you've got two abilities, and they might have some kind of a synergy, or they might not. You know, it's sort of up to the player to sort of decide, you know, what are the effective combinations, you know, what are the OP strats. So, you know, from start to finish, you end up like advancing yourself to kind of like a hugely powered up state from where you started. And that's kind of the concept of the game. You know, you've got this sort of like simple, easy to understand, you know, Zelda style combat, but then it's fleshed out with this you know, just big kind of class tree system, you know, so you've got this customizable loadout, you know, every round. So that's kind of the gist of it, I guess. And like in both games, you know, GCM2 is very much an evolution of the first. You know, just been adding more to it, and like, you know, the real challenge is just sort of deciding, you know, what ideas, you know, go in, and, you know, what ideas get saved for maybe, you know, the next installment.
Right, and so how are the classes aligned, and what are their strengths and weaknesses in relation to one another?
Well, ultimately, there are 3 branches of the default tree. Now, and one thing that would be worth pointing out is that my partner Tyler and I, like last year, we built Steam Workshop support into the game in order to make it possible for players to basically make their own custom class trees, you know, whether that's like reorganizing what's there or making completely new classes. But as far as the default tree, fundamentally you've got like warriors, you know, which are all of their abilities tend to be based around improving their efficiency and proficiency in like the melee combat. Then you've got the thieves, who tend to be a little more kind of like fast and kind of like ranged, you know, kind of like mid-range abilities. You know, you've got like archers and, you know, sort of like lancers and jumps and stuff. And then you've got just the straight up, you know, magic users like the mages, you know, which have all sorts of, you know, arcane styled abilities, whether they're, you know, like fire projectiles or, you know, or just area of effect spells. You know, so basically, you know, you've got like the tanks, you know, and then you've got like the rogues, and then you've got the magic users.
All right. Right. So we have 2 pieces of media here. I think Pettyfan is currently showing the raw gameplay in the window.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Have you shown the trailer yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but we kind of we record on Twitch, but we also put out a podcast version, audio only. So some of our listeners may not be able to see what's going on with the gameplay footage. Anyway, so how do you balance all of the classes?
Well, the balance of all the classes, that has all come from our from my partner Jake, who's you know, like the game is fundamentally you know, his vision, and he's basically approached this with sort of the belief that, you know, the warriors should be good at one thing, you know, the thieves should be good at another, and like the mages should be good at their own. So it's kind of a rock paper scissors breakdown, and that ultimately guides, you know, any sort of balanced decision that's made. So, you know, the idea being that sort of like one class should ultimately be able to defeat the other pretty much, you know, in any kind of like one-on-one situation. But since it's ultimately going to be like a 3-way system, you know, it has a way of balancing itself.
Mm-hmm.
A way of balancing itself?
Well, in that, you know, you can never really have like a situation that's imbalanced for longer than one round, you know, because you know, because of the way that the game is set up, you can only ever have a skill combination like once per game. You know, you've got your primary ability based on the class that you're playing as, and then you can have a free selection of any ability you've had, you know, in a previous round. But since players are forced to change up their abilities every time, it has a way of just basically combating players just spamming the same things every single match. Sort of like forcing players to reevaluate their strategies every single round of the 8-round game.
I see.
So it's not like you're locked into one set of abilities. If you find like you don't like it, you could take a different set of abilities.
Exactly. I mean, assuming that at least like the class tree is gonna let you take that other branch. So like you could basically, like, once you've played a class once, you'll be able to bring that class's ability with you every subsequent round as your secondary ability. But you're always going to be changing up your primary ability. So you're never locked in. There's always a choice.
Now, is this class tree that I'm looking at on the Steam page accurate, where there are like 4 things to start, and then each one of those has 2 choices, pretty much?
Yep, that is the exact default tree. So yeah, the 4 starting classes, and then at any future round, you've got 2 choices ahead of you.
And how many classes in total are there in the game?
There are 66. 66 classes. And I forget off the top of my head how many actual viable combinations there are, but it's something like, I think it's like 600 or thereabouts. 600 possible combinations, but don't quote me on that. I've got the number written down somewhere, but I haven't actually thought about that for a while.
Duly noted. And how do the paths affect, say the squire? What's the difference between a pikeman and a swordsman, except the choice in weapons?
Well, the difference there is going to be the primary ability that class grants the player. So those 2 classes, I'm pretty sure they have the exact same actual stats, same health, same speed. So the distinguishing factor is going to be the ability that they bring the player in the form of their primary ability. Let me actually just take a look at the class tree to sort of refresh my memory as to what 2 abilities those classes have. So when you're thinking of swordsman, right. So steadfast versus readout. So those. Okay, so steadfast is an ability that cancels out the knockback that's present for every other class when you parry a sword strike. So in that case, it makes you a really intimidating adversary in melee combat, because every time that you parry an ability, your opponent is going to be knocked back, but you aren't. So it's very possible to sort of close in. Whereas the swordsman ability, that grants you a temporary damage immunity every time that you parry. So for those 2 abilities, for instance, there is kind of an interesting interplay. If you had a pikeman versus a swordsman, every time those 2 players parry a sword slash with each other, it's going to be, triggering a different effect. So, kind of like two sides of the same coin, maybe.
It does look like until pretty late on in the game, with a few exceptions, it's pretty difficult to get outside of your column of 2 jobs. Most of the promotions from second stage on, you have basically your choice of either the one that's straight up or the one that's 1 over from that.
That's right. Yeah. You are you basically are choosing something of a specialty in your second round. With a handful of exceptions. But since you're always, afforded, a choice between those 2 classes, there are, just a number of possibilities.
Right. And so, what games served as an influence to this series?
Well, my partners and I, we played just a heck of a lot of multiplayer games all together. Just stuff like Bomberman, say Secret of Mana, even stuff like like say micro machines, anything that involved say 3 or 4 players, all competing for for some kind of a common goal, or just any kind of like shared shared screen kind of multiplayer. I would say that probably Secret of Mana as far as giving like a really good example of how like an overhead perspective 2D game can work with like a kind of like a multiplayer setup. That definitely gave some amount of inspiration, but it would have to be sort of the multiplayer shenanigans of something more like say Super Bomberman, that really had like an influence as to how we wanted this game to actually work, where you've got just like a round by round kind of progression. But like really the thing that was like the true seed of inspiration for for the Grand Class Melee concept is that like we all used to just like mess around in like the backyard, just basically like LARPing. We had these kind of like ridiculous sort of overblown fantasy role-playing games that we would basically enact with with like pool noodles as swords, just like smacking each other, and every sort of matchup, we would be like imagining that we were like leveling up to like a new job, gaining like a new ability. So like that particular sort of
yeah. Well,
childhood
now I
experience-
have double Excalibur. So even though you blocked my Excalibur last time, now I have 2 of them.
Exactly, like that sort of like childhood, like fancy. That definitely was sort of how this game started.
So I'm noticing here there's the emphasis on local multiplayer.
Yes,
So there is no online multiplayer at all in the game.
correct. That is something of like a complicated point. Like, like we obviously we've like seen the potential in Grand Class Melee to be like an online multiplayer game, and when we released the game in early access, that was like one of the big things that we were pursuing was trying to like develop our own net code in order to make like an online multiplayer experience feasible and satisfactory. But like it's a very complicated and just troublesome thing to try to get going. In this case, we're a small team, so as far as Grand Class Melee is concerned, Grand Class Melee 1 and 2, there's my partner Tyler, who's our lead programmer. There's my partner Jake, who's contributed design and like sound effects, and then I've been doing all of the art assets, and I mean, and we all ultimately collaborate on sort of like guiding sort of design and like gameplay and just general sort of user experience and such. But trying to like code a game to work like reliably online is just it's a big freaking job, especially for a game engine that didn't really take that into consideration as we were making it. So like because like as it is, like the game is an XNA game studio game, so it's all coded in C#, but it means that there isn't quite the same kind of opportunity for for offloading a lot of the responsibility like you would have say with like a Unity game, where a lot of the uncertainties involved in like network multiplayer can be sort of delegated to other sort of bits and pieces. You've got to do it all yourself, and we unfortunately have never been able to like get the kind of performance like that we would need to be able to confidently release like an online multiplayer just like aspect of the game. So we basically had to make the hard decision to shelve that just for the sake of being able to make progress on the other parts of the game that needed attention.
It does seem like this is the kind of game that is not very forgiving of input lag either.
Well, yeah, that would definitely be like quite crippling. Like it's sort of you need like pinpoint precision as far as reaction time, and it probably it would be a ruined experience. But then again, people are capable of tolerating a lot, but at the same time, nobody likes having like a laggy like a laggy game.
No, we've definitely experienced that in some of our multiplayer sessions. But-
Yeah.
And that does make sense. Although on the flip side of the coin, local co-op on a PC devices, has that been a hard sell? Given the audience.
Well, I mean, there is a certain vocal subset of of like the gaming community that really just outright criticize local multiplayer focused PC games. But I mean, like in the modern day, it's honestly not that big of a deal to just hook up, say like 4 random USB controllers, whether you've got like a USB hub or you've just got like available ports on like a laptop or something. I mean, like it's not such a big deal as it once was, where maybe you only had like one serial port on like your PC tower. Like I'd say that it certainly limits the possible like reach of a game, to have like a local multiplayer focus on PC. But I don't think it's a deal breaker. You've got too many games that that say otherwise. Stuff like like Towerfall and Samurai Gun and all these other sort of like Twitch 2D games that have managed to find an audience despite the fact that their focus is solely on the local multiplayer experience. And in the case of Grand Cross Melee 2, I mean, the game has, well, I mean, it's like people buy it and they enjoy it. So, there you go.
Indeed. How long has the game been in early access, and how long do you think it'll be in early access still?
Well, we launched the game in early access February 2015, so it's it's been a little over 2 years now, and it's been like I don't think any of us really anticipated that the game would be in early access for this long. It's just that there have been like it's been a bit of a tumultuous development. I'll spare the details, but we've definitely had some highs and lows, but more important, I'd say, than the actual amount of time that the game has spent in early access is just that by spending a little bit of time on polish and like filling out features, the game is like considerably better now than it was when it launched in early access. So however long it takes for us to actually be happy enough with it to consider it complete, it will have been a worthy investment of our time. Like as it is right now, my partner Ty and I were working on like this long-awaited like sort of survival mode, like monster spawns, something kind of like like a mode inspired by by Gauntlet, where you've got monster spawners and you're trying to like eliminate them all. And once we've gotten this mode like wrapped up and super fun, and once we've gotten like a fleshed out kind of like training mode together, and a number of other little things, we're hoping to be able to feel good enough about the game to say that it's complete. So I would say within the next few months, the game could conceivably make the jump from early access to full release.
And about the price, will it remain the same price when it gets out of early access, or will it increase when it gets to 1.0?
Well, we are planning on keeping like the price the same. So depending on your regional equivalent, it's like effectively a $10 game, and that price is going to stay consistent through early access to full release. But what will change is that we're going to be probably removing the 4-pack from the Steam store. So that's one change, is that will just no longer be available.
Right. So switching quickly over to Gigatross here.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting to get low on time. So having watched the trailer, I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going on here, because it doesn't look like it's a typical game of chess.
No. So it plays more like a score attack kind of puzzle game. Where you basically have waves of pawns being spawned at the top of the board, and every turn they're advancing sort of one step further down, and it's your job as commander of a party of knights, rooks, and bishops to fend off the horde of pawns before they reach the bottom of the board. And every time a pawn crosses the bottom of the board, you lose a life. Now that's at least describing the endless mode. There's also like a puzzle mode, and I've actually almost finished off like a different puzzle mode that I'm going to be releasing in the next big update. So it's like a remix, let's say, of some classic chess concepts, but then transformed into something that plays a lot more like a tower defense game. So the pawns are your creeps, and you've got to get them all.
Right.
Does it ever spawn anything besides pawns, or is that too tricky with the way that I assume everything moves like actual chess pieces?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of variations. So there are standard pawns that that move down one square at a time, and they attack on like a diagonal one square. But then there's also like a powered up version of the pawn known as a viper pawn, and they advance 2 squares every turn, and they have an attack pattern that's stretched out kind of like a knight. So 2 down, 1 over. So between the regular pawns and viper pawns, they end up kind of reinforcing themselves in really kind of like devilish ways. And then on top of that, there's also the possibility that a pawn might be cursed, indicated by like a swirling purple wisp. And any of your hero pieces, the knights, rooks, and bishops that captures the cursed pawn gets transformed into a knight for a turn, thus downgrading it to single step 8-way movement. So you've effectively got 2 different enemy types, and then sort of that additional twist in the way of the curse. And that focus is deliberate, just in order to make it so that the enemies are really kind of like a systematic threat. They don't really have to do any kind of like logical calculation. It's just they're all able to advance as a horde.
Interesting.
So no king or queen pieces?
Well, you can be transformed into a king if your piece gets cursed, and then there's also like an available power up, because every depending on how effectively the player is actually going about their turn, you're earning SP, which can be redeemed for power ups. So you can either buy a blockade, which acts as just like a wall to block pawns from advancing. You can buy like a trap mine, which is capable of destroying 3 pieces in front of it, or you can purchase a queen up, which temporarily converts one of your hero pieces into a queen for 4 turns. So the queen is available, but it's presented as an exclusive power up.
Which makes sense. It would be too good to have all the time.
Yeah, there's actually it came to my attention actually right around the time that the Gigatross came out on Steam, that there's like another game that has a similar kind of a vibe. It's called Board Defenders, and it's like a I think it was originally released for for mobile. It looks like a totally cool game. But one thing that is a little bit like weird that I do kind of question is that like, instead of Gigatross, where you're kind of like customizing a party or whatever, you're given pieces to sort of deal with, and like sometimes you'll be given like a queen, and it's like the queen is ultimately the best piece. I mean, like it kind of makes it strategically too easy if you have access to a queen at all times. The queen is just the definition of OP.
Right. I mean, the queen is the strongest chess piece in the game.
Yes.
Though she doesn't actually have defense against viper pawns, I think.
That is correct.
Right, and is it just like endless mode, or are there like presets as well?
The puzzle attack mode that's there in the game, it's a 48 stage mode, and those present like preset formations of of enemy pawns and and your party. So basically, it's just you're given a par value to try to complete the to try to clear the stage by, and that is unlike the endless mode, which is based purely on random generation. Like all of the stages in puzzle attack mode are all handmade.
And you mentioned that a new mode is coming out soon.
Yes. Have any of you heard of like a classic chess puzzle known as the Knight's Tour? Does that sound familiar to anyone?
I'm familiar with that.
Oh, cool. So there have been like a bunch of sort of game versions of the Knight's Tour. The idea being that you're just trying to touch every square of the board using a knight without ever retracing your steps. But what I've been working on is I've gotten all the stages actually all designed, all the solutions are worked out. It's just really basically a question right now of just making like a fun level selector, to add some flavor to the whole thing. But so riffing on the concept of the Knight's Tour, now you've got sort of like actual levels, that are sort of carved out of the standard chessboard, and you've got up to 2 knights that you're dealing with at a time, and there are also special squares on the board that will temporarily convert you into a rook or a bishop. So you're still trying to touch every square of the of the dungeon stage, but you're controlling potentially 2 knights at once, and those knights can be shape-shifted into a rook or a bishop to kind of give you access to like maybe a far-off corner of the board that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to reach. So that's the new upcoming mode, is this dungeon tour mode, which is definitely taking a loving inspiration from the Knight's Tour. Something that's like totally non-combat related, because that is something that I think the game would certainly benefit from. Is just like a mode that offers no real kind of like tactical pressure. I think some people might get stressed out.
Well, Gigatross certainly looks like an interesting game, and if you'd like, we can review it in a couple weeks.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to give it a spin, that'd be awesome. I mean, I'd be like I'd be happy to send you a key. Like, for that matter, I mean, if any of you were interested in Grand Class Melee 2, I'd be more than happy just to give you a complimentary copy.
Sure. It's just that's something I suppose we would stream, or Petty Fan would stream. But our official policy is we do not review early access games.
Oh, I see.
It's like, we do not review games until they are ready.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to have to say, well, such and such are the problems with when there are things that might be fixed, or such and such were things that I liked when they were unintended and ended up getting quote unquote fixed.
Yeah, like that, like, oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, but Gigatross being a release game, sure, we can review. And there are 4. We usually ask for 4 copies because there are 4 of us on review staff.
Cool. Well, I mean,
does Grand Class Melee have much in the way of single-player options, out of curiosity, or is it pretty much just
bot matches?
Well, the centerpiece of the game is like the versus mode. So if you're playing it as a single player, you have configurable bots, that have a range of difficulties. There is also like a pair of leaderboard supported modes where they're called like quick battle modes, where it just will sort of launch you into a quick kind of like free-for-all match, or a quick like 1v3 match. But fundamentally, the single-player game is always against bots. But that's where the upcoming monster like hunting survival mode is going to flesh out the offering a little bit. So that mode is going to definitely be sort of more fun for for single players if they wanted something other than just straight combat.
Okay, cool. I just don't have many people that I would be able to play like local co-op with. And I'm sorry if you covered that at all before. I did have to take a temporary break earlier in the show.
No worries. I mean, I know it's like it's a totally like a totally valid concern. Really, if a person doesn't necessarily have like a group of people that they can routinely game with, then it definitely makes like a local multiplayer focused game a hard sell. And yeah, that's something that we're very aware of, and it's what we hope to maybe change some people's minds with the survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and before we wrap things up, you have another game here to talk about, Fantasy Bump.
Yeah.
What is this game exactly?
Well, Fantasy Bump is like a 1 to 6 player party platforming game. So it's ultimately kind of like a single screen kind of jump and bump battle game. But the real kind of cool thing about it is that it's got a very sort of strong JRPG flavor to it. I mean, like imagine like an old school Final Fantasy world, but tipped on its side and presented like a 2D platformer. So the whole game.
Now I'm just picturing Final Fantasy Tactics sprites doing Q*bert.
Actually, that would be awesome. I would totally play a version of Q*bert that was just reskinned with Final Fantasy Tactics graphics.
Well, now we know their next game.
Oh, but no, Fantasy Bump. So to take sort of your classic like Final Fantasy job archetypes, but then reimagine them as being characters in like a platforming kind of running jumping game. So it's got a variety of of party style game modes. You've got like a whole host of possible like stages and environments to play in, and the whole thing is just sort of wrapped in this this sort of strong JRPG envelope. So we've been working on like most recently on like the proper sort of campaign mode. So we've got like a set of 8 bosses that you're going to be fighting against, and we've got like a whole sort of like a bunch of like trophies and such to unlock. But the whole thing is sort of pitched as being this like sort of annual tournament taking place on this special island. So there's like unlike Grand Class Melee, which has sort of an undefined premise, Fantasy Bump actually kind of has a real world behind it, which has been like a definite breath of fresh air as far as like our actual work on it. We've got something that's really sort of grounded in like a universe.
And has it already been approved for Steam, or is it going through Steam Greenlight right now?
Oh, it was fortunately greenlit last year, actually. So like it's basically ready for release as soon as we are ready to release it.
And how far along is the game?
Well, if I were to pin down some kind of a just like a number, I'd say probably the game is maybe about 85% like the way to the finish line. Recently, my partner Ty and I, we've been focusing our our collaboration on Grand Class Melee 2 more than anything else, just because we really want to get the game out of early access before before we release Fantasy Bump. It's tough to be kind of like working on like a new game when you've still got this other one that that needs more attention, and when you've only got so many hours in the day and so many people that are actually able to make a contribution. It comes down to like a harsh decision as to what game gets the attention and and what game doesn't. So Fantasy Bump, like it's in the home stretch, but before we can really refocus on it, we need to get GCM2, out officially.
Fair enough. Like, all right. Well, Trevor, it's been great hearing about your products, and we certainly look forward to the release of Grand Class Melee 2, whenever that should be. And we look forward to reviewing Gigatross as well. You know? And thank you for stopping by.
Well, hey, thanks for inviting me onto the show. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. All right, Petty, are you all hooked up there with Sonic CD?
Give me half a second to switch over to it.
All right, while you're doing that, I'll intro. Yeah, so
We're talking about Sonic CD, if you didn't guess.
Yeah, I'm like,
Cool.
yeah, I'm like, I really didn't feel like putting a lot of thought into this week's topic because of the big Wonder Boy retrospective. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just talk about another Sonic game. Those are pretty easy for us to talk about.
Are there is there a certain amount of Sonic love amongst your crew here?
I'm the biggest Sonic fan in the group.
Yes. I'm like, we've also we talked about Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 recently. It's like, now, I suppose the logic is you go to Sonic 3 next, but
Wait a minute,
Sonic-
there was one more we're missing here.
Yeah. It's like there were other Sonic games released.
That's
Granted, it's like we talked about like the Game Gear versions of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 in their in those particular episodes, and there's not really a lot of meat on any individual, say, Game Gear game to talk about it standalone. But
Sure.
Sonic CD is different.
Mhm.
It's
Also,
like-
for those of you who are about to ask, no, I do not have the audio on because I don't feel like getting a copyright strike from Sega.
I'm like, is that a concern on Twitch?
When we export to YouTube, it will be.
Yeah, I know YouTube might be a concern, but yeah, I'm like,
Twitch probably not, especially since we're talking over it, but it's better to be safe than sorry, I guess.
Yeah.
like, fair enough. But yes, so yes. First of all, Sonic CD didn't come before Sonic 3, but it was in development before. It was kind of in development at the same time as Sonic 2, but got released in 1993. It released alongside Sonic 3, if I'm remembering correctly. Granted, we're talking.
I
Yeah,
don't
granted-
remember, but I think they were not too far apart.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
sorry
like,
to interrupt. I have to actually visit the bathroom just for 1 second. I'll be back in a jiff.
it's like it's been what, 25 years since this game got released.
Not quite that long, but it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, it's 1993. It's 24 years.
Yeah, I was only one when this came out.
Like,
You're such a baby.
point is, this is like the technical, actual Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in terms of, mainline releases. Nobody fucking counts the Game Gear games. I'm like, but, Sonic the Hedgehog CD kind of occupies an odd place on the Sonic the Hedgehog spectrum, because it's not a spin-off like, say, Sonic Spinball is. It's a mainline game, but it's not, the next mainline game. It's kind of a side game, but kind of not. And
Yeah.
I think there was some debate about how canon it was until,
Well-
now it definitely is, but
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, its canonicity was never in question, especially since this is the game that introduced Amy Rose,
And Metal
yeah,
Sonic.
that's right.
or at least Amy Rose 1.0. Like, Amy Rose back in the Sonic the Hedgehog CD looked very, very different.
Well, she also hasn't been seen
lot-
since
She looked
Sonic
a lot
CD
more
and
like-
mainline.
She looked a lot more like Pink Sonic in a dress.
Yeah, that's not true. Amy Rose did appear in quite a few games, actually.
Well, mainline
like-
games.
Well, yeah, she didn't appear in the mainline games until like Adventure, but she still showed up, like in
Yeah.
the Sonic Drift series or Sonic the Fighters, and she still looked like Pink Sonic.
Yeah.
Like, you know, her redesign didn't hit until Sonic Adventure, but
At which point Sonic also got a pretty significant redesign.
Yeah, everybody got a pretty big redesign, but I think Amy Rose was the most radical of them all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what was there is Amy Rose's stalkerish tendency.
I think
Yeah,
stalkerish tendencies might be an understatement.
Not for this one. Not for this one. If only because she doesn't show up that much.
Mhm.
Like that's another thing that got really ratcheted up in the Dreamcast era. No, but point of order is Amy Rose is just kind of a I don't know side venture going on here. Like she gets trapped in this ordeal, but you know the main.
And then at one point she gets kidnapped by Metal Sonic so that you have to race him.
Well, apparently the whole thing is something about tarot cards, thinking that she was going to meet Sonic here, so that's why she showed up. And then she meets him, and then he gets immediately kidnapped.
Yeah. I'm like, the actual plot of the game is there is this thing that is literally called Little Planets. Like, it's a little planet, and it's named Little Planets.
Not to be confused with Little Big Planet, which is a completely different game.
Like, and Dr. Eggman changed it to, like, the Earth or Mobius or whatever we're calling it this week. Now, and is using the power of the time zones to warp time and space.
Because, of course.
I mean, that is another one of the major... Well, this isn't a major difference because the time zones are, functionally speaking, the same as the Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, you're not collecting Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, you won't go supersonic in this one.
No. I'm like, there's quite a bit of this game that feels a bit, how do I put this, off-brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a reason for that. It's like playing one of the Super Mario Land games. It's a Super Mario game, but it doesn't feel like one exactly, and that's because Sonic team at this point split into two halves.
Mm-hmm.
You had Yuji Naka's portion, which was working on Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, and Sonic the Hedgehog CD was being headed by Naoto Oshima. Sorry if I'm butchering this name. Naoto Oshima.
Interesting. You know, I didn't realize that Sonic CD was helmed by like a different sort of team.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
the people on it were involved in the previous ones, but they weren't like the leaders in the previous ones mostly.
That's not exactly true either, because Naoto Oshima is kind of really important because he's the actual creator of Sonic.
The character.
He's the guy who actually did the character design and shit.
Yeah.
For Sonic. So he was involved in the beginning as well, and this is kind of what he was doing while Yuji Naka was working on the Genesis games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Sonic CD feels a lot different than your typical Sonic game. It's got a lot of the trappings, but it's got things like the super peel out move, which only appeared in this game and not until like I want to say Sonic 4, like a much later Sonic game.
Which is kind of a shame,
Sonic
because that was a
4
famous
Part
tech
2,
game.
actually.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, Sonic 4 Part 2 is literally a sequel to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also had the weird level design, and
Time travel.
And like your objective in the game is kind of different than usual. Instead of getting to the end of the stage, or even collecting each time zone or chaos emerald, what you do have to do, and this game does feature its own bonus stage. As an aside, I kind of miss that about Sonic games, when they would have their own unique bonus games and not just rip off the Sonic 2 bonus stage over and over again.
Or actually had bonus stages.
1, 2, CD, and 3 all have pretty different bonus stage styles, but everything since then has pretty much followed one or more of those, mostly 2.
Right, and Sonic CD put you in what I like to call Super Nintendo land. Because it looks like, I think Petty Fan has been in there, if you can see from the footage.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Yeah. You move on a very plane that looks like a Mode 7 deal.
Which is honestly cool for the Genesis.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's there. Like, I mean, functionally speaking, it's a pretty bleh kind of bonus stage. Like, you're trying to destroy all the satellites in a certain amount of time, and your biggest threat is like the water.
Yeah.
Like
water drains your time.
Like super quick. And I always found it to be okay, but it always reminded me of like the gimmick elements of the Super NES.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't like it when it showed up there either.
Also, I'm going back into a bonus stage.
Yeah.
Well, it always screamed to me, look at this, we can do scaling and rotation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Sega CD, could do some pretty impressive stuff, with like scaling and rotation. Like it's really kind of a shame that that there weren't more games that really did sort of the Mode 7 style of gameplay, because like it could have like excelled at that.
Well, yeah, it was better than FMV, and FMV.
Yeah.
Which this game does also feature a small FMV. It has a pretty decent FMV intro.
2 of them.
Yeah.
2 of them.
Yeah,
actually, no, 3. It has, I think, 1 for each ending.
Yes, it has.
And
3.
the beginning.
It's got one. It's got one for the opening. It's got the good end, and it's got the bad end.
Yeah.
And anyway, getting back to the level design, what you're supposed to be doing is you got to go back into the past and destroy the roboticizer in each stage.
Right.
God, remember when that was a thing?
And you activate the time travel by going past a sign that has a time thing on it, and then going really fast because you're Sonic.
Something about 88 miles per hour.
The Sonic team watched Back to the Future.
To the shock of nobody.
Anyway, and when you destroy the roboticizer in the past, not only do you save the future, no, seriously, if you go to the future destroying that, it'll be all dark and twisted, and the stage
itself will actually be harder.
Yes. And if you do that in the after you destroy the roboticizer, it's all bright and cheery, and there are no enemies.
Yeah.
When you destroy that, you destroy all enemies. And for some reason, Dr. Robotnik, Dr. Eggman, whatever you want to call him, I know people kind of interchange depending on the game. If we're talking about the classic games, they go with Dr. Robotnik, but technically speaking, he's always been Dr. Eggman. Anyway, for some reason, all the robots in this game are stuffed with flowers.
Instead of animals.
Yeah, but but when you kill the robots, typically flowers will show up. It's just one of those things that looks weird within the context of its own series. Perhaps the worst aspect of this game are the bosses.
Yeah. This version of the boss for the basically labyrinth zone is possibly one of the worst bosses in the Sonic series.
Well, it's also because for some reason every boss just takes 3 hits to kill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, like Sonic bosses aren't typically all that challenging. You know, in general, but here they're even more of a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like three hits is really, just sort of permanent easy mode. Let's be honest.
Well,
Usually it's like 8.
It's 8 in Sonic, like 2 and 3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think 2 or 3 hits, I think a Nintendo game.
Yeah, we're not playing Mario here.
And then a lot of the later Sonic games do the thing where you can only attack the boss very rarely, but that's not much the case here. So 3 goes by pretty fast.
Now, of course, no discussion of Sonic CD would be complete without mentioning the soundtrack.
Which one?
Or soundtrack.
Yes, I'd say.
Because, Sonic the Hedgehog CD has one of the most famous / infamous soundtracks in the entire franchise.
Spoilers, they've been reusing a lot of the remixes in the new modern Sonic games because people like that soundtrack.
Right. But when I say 2 soundtracks, it's because, well, there's the original Japanese version, which the European version retained. But for whatever reason, they rewrote the entire score. Well, not the entire score. I believe the past music is still the same. But most of the score was replaced by new compositions. And that's been a fiery debate, no joke, for many a year.
Literally, the Steam version, you can actually pick between the Japanese and English versions.
It was a fiery debate until the Taxman release. Yes. This was actually, I think, the first Taxman port, which first showed up on mobile. But unlike, say, Sonic 2, which is still only on mobile, I don't know why, but this one, this game was ported to the to all the major systems of the time, except for the Wii, I think.
Shockingly, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's on the PC, so, and this version has both soundtracks, so whichever one you want to listen to, you can listen to.
Yeah, though they don't have the vocals for the Japanese intro music. It's just the instrumental.
That's probably a rights issue.
Yeah, that's... But if you were looking for the Toot Toot Sonic Warrior, you're not going to be getting it. Sorry.
Yeah, that just smells like, they couldn't get the full rights to this. And, previous to the Taxman port, it was actually kind of hard to play Sonic CD because it didn't really see a lot of release.
The only other release is the PC release that I know of.
That's incorrect, because there's also a thing called the Sonic Gems collection.
Yeah.
Oh,
actually,
right.
It's the only way that I've ever played Sonic CD, actually, is the GameCube version of the Sonic Gems collection.
Right, and it's worth noting that the GameCube version of that was exclusive here in North America, but in Europe and Japan, once again, I'm not exactly sure why this happened, but it did. There was a PlayStation 2 version.
Really?
Of the Sonic Gems collection. Like I said, I don't know why it was exclusive to the GameCube here only. That's one of those things that only made sense to the people doing that at the time.
Yeah.
It's like I can tell you initially it's because, Sonic has been really, really popular on Nintendo consoles. But, it's such a weird thing to make exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, like the PS2 version of Sonic Gems collection would almost certainly have sold decently, in North America. Like, there's no reason to think that it wouldn't. I mean, I wonder sort of what version of the Sonic Mega Collection, sold the best. Like whether it was GameCube, Xbox, or PS2. Maybe it was the GameCube.
It's hard to say because the GameCube version came out not only first, but It's actually a different collection. It's the Sonic Mega Collection versus the Sonic Mega Collection Plus.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's like the Plus is there because I believe more games came out in that compilation.
I
Because,
believe it had
you know,
all of the Game Gear games, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So actually, I guess like the Mega Collection Plus is kind of like the Sonic Gems Collection combined with the Mega Collection.
Right.
Mega
It's
Collection,
just,
though, did not have Sonic the Fighters.
Yeah, or a Sonic R or Sonic CD. Like,
Just
you
the
know,
Game Gear games. Huh.
just the Game Gear games. Like, yeah. The point is, Sega's released a lot of compilation packs, but usually they're going to be the Genesis games. You know, seeing Sonic CD released, like, the Sonic Gems Collection was its first re-release, and so that was like the big deal of the Sonic Gems Collection. I think the highlight was supposed to be like Sonic R. Or something, but if you've ever played Sonic R, there are no highlights of that game.
Only pain and misery.
Yeah. I'm like, and I'm including the soundtrack on that. I know some people like that soundtrack. Yeah. No. Just no.
To each their own.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, but at least the soundtrack is a matter of taste. Like, Sonic R, is objectively speaking a bad game with bad handling, bad controls, and just
I
bad.
think someone was on drugs when that was being made, but that's not the game we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it has its fans. It has its fans, but like, just why did Sega make a Sonic racing game when they could have made a full-fledged platformer? I wonder.
I can actually answer that. It's because they didn't have that full-fledged platformer. I'm like, that Sonic Extreme got canceled because the project was just a hot mess. Like, no, seriously. The behind-the-scenes reports that have come out about the game in the intervening years just shows that the game was kind of in the crosshairs of a political struggle between Sega of America and Sega of Japan. Like, it was, and there were some design choices that were just burdensome, and and like the producer was working on it until he had to be hospitalized, and once that happened, the game got canceled.
Wow.
So Sonic R was trotted out to just have something for that Christmas release season.
I see. So kind of like fill like an opening, like
Yes.
we need a game, we need a high profile Saturn release by December 1995.
Yes. It was. This is also why Sonic 3D Blast got brought to the Saturn. It's just like we have a hole to fill, and we got to put something there. Something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. But getting back to Sonic CD, like, it's generally considered to be one of the better Sonic games. Although I don't think I've ever seen anyone say Sonic CD is my favorite Sonic game.
Yeah.
I'm sure those people exist, but
They're
never
also
decided-
wrong because Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best.
That aside, it's also I kind of lost my train of thought there.
It's not one of the most widely played Sonic games, I don't imagine.
No. Not in certainly not in comparison to Sonic 2 or something. Like, we have the sales numbers. We know a lot more people have played the main Genesis trilogy versus Sonic CD, if only because more people had access to stock Genesis than Sega CDs. Sonic, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has been released how many fucking times now?
If you own a Sonic compilation, you have Sonic 2. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's like versus Sonic CD, which is only been has only appeared in one collection and only got one enhanced port. Granted, that port is on everything now, but until that happened, there was no easy way to play Sonic CD. Also, yes, there was an initial PC version of Sonic CD as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, You know,
I have,
know,
but spoilers, it doesn't work on 32-bit operating systems.
no, Sega.
so.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason why a modern port had to be done for the PC.
Mhm.
Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog CD seems to be a rather beloved Sonic the Hedgehog title, just not the most beloved, is what I'm getting at.
hmm
Well,
Anyway.
I think. Sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. I think it was. Was it the Galaxy? You mentioned earlier that it was sort of like the Mario Land of of the Sonic franchise. I think
I
that's
think
it's
that
like a
was
very.
out, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah, if that was your observation, I think that's totally spot on. And that kind of lends it like a certain novelty. It's like Sonic CD. It stands apart from the rest of the franchise, and like it's as a result, it's easy to kind of have like a special love for Sonic CD. Like but I do have to wonder, like objectively. I mean, of course, it's like it's an impossible thing to say, but like objectively, is Sonic CD like as is Sonic CD objectively as good as Sonic 3 and Knuckles? I mean, I guess it's purely a matter of opinion, but like when you factor in sort of how many things are kind of like slightly off about Sonic CD versus like how polished a game like Sonic 3 and Knuckles is, it's like I don't know, like a person can have a favorite, and that's one thing, but like to say it's like the best of the series is another.
Yeah. All right. And that'll about do it for our topic of discussion this week, and indeed that'll about do it for this for the entire episode. We got to wrap up because we got to switch over to MSP in a few minutes here. Indeed, we are having an episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents. Mac has confirmed this, and he's got some important announcements to talk about, including something that's dropping on Friday.
Yay,
Is
I
there-
hope.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I know it's coming because I saw it last night.
Mhm.
He showed me the finished product, so it's there, it's ready, and just waiting for everything to line up, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, that is happening. Coming up in the week ahead, we have reviews of Trick Style and Formulate happening this Sunday. And next week, we've got Jeff Glasson of Meridian 4. They're the publisher of Vive la Rah and other games. And on a very, very special time, Thursday, March 16th, noon. It's Yassine Salmi. I think that's how you pronounce this. Of Salmi Games. They're the publisher of Ellipses and developer as well. So we're going to be talking to them. So we got a full week ahead. And until a few minutes from now on another channel, I wish you good gaming.